Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping straight into something literally mind-bending today. We're going to unpack a truly fascinating psychological framework centered around one of history's most iconic figures, the samurai. But we're looking at them through a completely unexpected lens. Based on some incredible insights proposed by Dr. Orion Taraban, we're exploring the samurai not just as warriors, but as this profound model of inner duality. We're going to see exactly how the most legendary fighters in human history masterfully balanced two deeply contrasting psychological traits right inside their own minds. So I want you to really think about this for a second. What actually separates your basic one-dimensional fighter from a true legendary master? It's a genuine mystery when you look back at history. Why is it that some of the absolute deadliest, most formidable warriors to ever walk the earth were also deeply sensitive poets? Like, how do those two wild extremes exist in the exact same person? Well, the answer lies entirely in how they managed their psychological traits. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Traits of the Masculine and Feminine. To really get the samurai model, we first need to lay down our sources' foundational definitions. What's super interesting here is how Dr. Taraban actually frames these gender traits. He takes an evolutionary perspective, looking at them as a suite of responses to life's problems that stuck around, simply because they worked. They're adaptive. So, in this framework, regardless of whether these traits are in a man or a woman, masculinity is fundamentally about strength and the disposition to protect. And what exactly is it protecting? It protects the weak, or the feminine. The source points out something really insightful. Nothing protects itself. A helmet protects a head. It doesn't protect the helmet. So the whole function of the masculine is to protect the feminine, which encompasses our sensitivity and our very capacity to feel. All right, shifting gears a bit. Section 2, Western versus Samurai tropes. Let's see how different societies actually illustrate these concepts through the stories they tell. This perfectly captures two totally different cultural narratives. You see, the Western approach relies heavily on interpersonal tropes. That means taking those masculine and feminine traits and spreading them across two completely different characters, just to make the story easy to digest. But the samurai culture, they use intra-psychic tropes. That's a fancy way of saying that both the masculine protector and the feminine protected are contained within the exact same individual. To make this crystal clear, just think about the stuff we grew up with in Western storytelling. The hyper-masculine knight has to slay the dragon to save the hyper-feminine damsel in distress. Mario runs through castles to save Princess Peach. Link battles his way across Hyrule to save Zelda, right? Western stories literally chop the protector and the protected into two distinct bodies. But the samurai narrative does something totally different. It essentially collapses Mario and Peach into one single person. Which brings us right to Section 3, the purpose of sensitivity. Let's transition into the very heart of this model and ask the obvious question. Why on earth would a fierce, heavily armed warrior actively try to cultivate softness? Here's where it gets really wild. The crucial point is how the samurai viewed their own feeling apparatus. The source observes that physical sensations are essentially delicate impressions. If you think about it, to physically sense the world around you, your sensory apparatus actually has to be softer and weaker than the impressions hitting it. Otherwise, you literally wouldn't feel anything. So rather than trying to crush this weakness to become a cold-blooded killer, the samurai actively cultivated these feminine traits. They fought to retain their capacity to feel delight and to appreciate delicate beauty, like the falling sakura or cherry blossoms. Just picture this scene. You have a warrior, absolutely prepared to draw his sword, take a life, or die for his lord, calmly sitting down to compose a delicate, beautiful haiku just minutes before a deadly duel. I mean, the sheer difficulty of balancing these two extremes cannot be overstated. As the source points out, our modern world usually splits these apart. Prisons are full of sociopathic killers who suffocated their ability to feel anything, and on the flip side, cities are full of fragile aesthetes who wouldn't hurt a fly. But the samurai standard, it was to avoid both of those extremes. They had to be the unstoppable force who could still be moved to tears by a reed bending in the wind. Now let's look at how this plays out in a life-or-death scenario in Section 4, Intuition and Martial Mastery. Why would suppressing your emotions actually be a massive liability on the battlefield? To really grasp this, we have to look at the concept of Wu Wei. It's this foundational concept in Eastern martial arts, and it roughly translates to acting without acting. In the middle of a frantic, bloody duel, there is absolutely zero time to think in a deliberate, logical, step-by-step manner. You cannot consciously calculate your next move. The appropriate response has to arise out of you. intuitively, based on exactly what's happening in that split second. You've probably heard Bruce Lee's famous philosophy to be like water, right? Well, this is exactly what he meant. Water has no fixed shape. It's flexible, yielding, and constantly responsive to whatever is happening right now. If a samurai is rigidly logical, if he's self-conscious and stuck in his own head overthinking things, he's a dead samurai. His survival literally depends on that delicate, receptive feeling apparatus we talked about a minute ago. The source actually brings up the ultimate pop culture analogy for this, Star Wars. Remember that epic moment when Ben Kenobi tells Luke Skywalker to turn off his targeting computer? That computer represents his logical, thinking mind. Instead, he tells him to use the Force. Luke has to trust his interconnected intuition to sense the reality of the present moment. And of course, it's only by dissolving his ego and trusting that feeling that Luke manages to blow up the Death Star. The samurai operates on that exact same principle. Now hold on a second, stop right there. Before you go abandoning all logic to just follow your feelings, we need to talk about Section 5, the prerequisite of discipline. There is a massive, critical caveat to this entire philosophy. Because here is the absolute truth. Unearned intuition is an active liability. The source makes a super vital point here. Entrusting your actions to your feminine intuition is really only a good idea if that intuition has already been corrected and refined by an absolute mountain of masculine discipline. If you are not yet a master, letting your raw, unrefined feelings steer your behavior is frankly one of the worst things you could possibly do. Let's actually walk through the steps to true mastery. Step 1. You're looking at years, honestly decades, of intense masculine discipline and intention. Step 2. All of that immense physical and mental toughness actually trains your unconscious mind to accurately perceive reality without any distortion or bias. It's only after you've gone through that grueling process that you finally reach step 3. Your feeling capacity is now crystal clear and unmuddied, so you can finally get out of your own way and let that intuition flow safely. So to pull all of this together, look at how these traits interact. This is the true magic of the samurai model. The samurai doesn't strive to be some block of pure, unfeeling masculinity, and he definitely doesn't look down on feminine traits. Instead, he uses his physical toughness, his mental discipline, and his martial strength to rigorously protect his own capacity to appreciate beauty, feel delight, and access that unmuddied intuition. He is his own protector and his own protected. It's brilliant. Now, if this historical and psychological deep dive fascinates you as much as it does me, the source highly recommends picking up Bushido, The Soul of Japan by Inazo Nitobe. It's just a phenomenal read if you want to explore these concepts even further. And that brings us to one final provocative thought I want to leave you with today. How could integrating both fierce discipline and deep sensitivity elevate your own path to mastery? Think about it. You don't have to be a swordsman in feudal Japan to use this. Whether you're in business, creating art, or just trying to navigate everyday life, imagine what you could actually achieve if you used immense discipline to guard an incredibly receptive, intuitive mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep chasing that balance, and I will catch you next time.